What's the worst scandal to happen at your school? A overachieving student in my year went nuts and pooped in a bag in a teacher's classroom. She also thought she could run up trees. Turns out she didn't, end up skipping a few years and going to uni early like she was predicted to do. The balance of genius is on a very thin edge, or the pressure from her parents drove her mad. Some highlights. 1. The chorus teacher got caught looking at Lalita porn on his school computer. 2. This kid had nudes of his ex that his friend sent to a bunch of people in school, but he was 18 and she was 14 or 15. So he got expelled, and I believe he was charged with distributing child pornography. We had a whole assembly because of it where the cops came and told us they could see everything on our phones. 3. A kid in my grade and another girl, same girl as in the story above, actually had sex in the bathroom. I learned about it from my band teacher. Band teacher spreading rumors, FFS. Crazy stuff happens in band. I remember when I was in 7th. On the band trip, a 8th grade girl gave a blowjob to an 8th grade guy under a blanket. In high school, a girl gave a blowjob to a guy in one of the practice rooms. The one they were in wasn't usually used and could be walked by, but usually wasn't. But all practice rooms had a large window in them, so hell, they definitely weren't the brightest. A kid in my senior year short story class, who sat directly behind me, was charged with the stabbing, beheading and burning of one of his friends / drug dealer. I remember the day like it was yesterday, sitting in my short story class when my teacher came in tears because she just heard the news. Students didn't find out about it until later. I actually have a friend who testified in his trial because he purchased the murdering materials at the hardware store she worked at. Crazy, man. Did some googling. Is this in Michigan? A teacher had an affair with the students. She was arrested and released on bail. Then a few days later she sent an email to other teachers saying it wasn't an affair, but that she was actually being raped by the student and blackmailed. She even attached screenshots of texts. Later that day, she murdered her husband and committed suicide. I was in 4th or 5th grade and someone sketched in the middle school bathroom not to go on school Friday or I will bang bang. This was then brought to the attention of the county and state police, and we didn't have school that day, and the police searched everyone's lockers for a firearm. In middle school, 8th grade / early 2000s, one of the hot girls sent a couple nude pictures to her BF, and it wasn't long until half the school had them. Police ended up becoming involved to make sure any old copies were destroyed. In high school there was a little scandal involving the teachers and a teachers club called the Hot Tub Club. Faculty members that had hot tubs would host a weekly hot tub party with other hot tub owners. Turns out they were all getting wasted and having a swinging party every Wednesday. Some Bardis pals found out about it, and there was a huge exodus of hot tub teachers my senior year. Edit. The main people involved with the photo were reprimanded but not charged. The girl had a sit down with a counselor to discuss what happened, and we all had a big assembly to discuss the consequences that could happen if people shared those kind of images. It scared a lot of kids straight. Nobody was fired from the school for being in the hot tub club. Teachers left because it was convenient timing with the opening of another high school, and there was constant babble about it. Just for clarity, this all happened in a small town in Western Canada. By the looks of my inbox, both are not uncommon occurrences. Kid made a chlorine bomb and threw it in the trash can at lunch. Lockdown. Bomb squad. Every single kid and faculty member out on the field in 95 weather for 2+ hours until parents could show up to pick up their kids. During middle school a few kids sold weed and someone that bought some smoked it in the building, which was just stupid. The kid that sold it to him didn't want to get in trouble, so he pulled the fire alarm so people wouldn't find the kid. We all got to go home afterwards. Honestly, that's some pretty quick thinking. Obviously not very responsible, but the kid that pulled the fire alarm had some pretty sharp self-preservation instincts. This kid was taking his GCSEs, important exams in England, until you get older and realize they mean duck all. Whilst at an exam some kids got onto his phone, went onto his notes, and found a 4,000 word document consisting of his sexual fantasies with other girls in his year. Clearly paid attention in English as there was some clever wordplay egg. comparing his cock to some world famous landmarks. The screenshots found their way into a lot of group chats. There were about 20 odd screenshots. To put into context how long it was, and it basically acted as a VAG repellent for the rest of his time at the school. Some students broke into a local elderly reverend's home to rob him. Thinking he was away, he sadly wasn't, and they proceeded to bludgeon him and his wife to death with baseball bats and beer bottles. They were caught pretty quickly, and although their names legally couldn't be published because they were minors, everyone including the local media knew who committed the crime. Media caused a circus at our school for weeks, harassing any student for comment. Many did because they thought it was /cool. Although these 3 kids, 13, 14, 15, were known to cause trouble, no one ever suspected they would be capable of a double homicide. Shocking to say the least. My high school guidance counselor ducked a science teacher's wife and everyone knew about it. They got a divorce. Both teachers still work at the same school to this day, and students will never ever let it go. The story has been handed down from year to year. The 30ish theater teacher ran off with a recent grad. I was kind of pals with the student during a play the spring before the scandal, and she hosted the cast party where in retrospect, they seemed a little cozier than appropriate. As much as I'm dying for the inside scoop, I can't imagine friending her on social media and asking, so what was up with you and Mr. /________________________ apostrophe. 2 things, both in middle school. 1. I was at home on a Sunday watching the news with my mom when all of a sudden my 6th grade teacher's mugshot showed up, and it said that her and her husband were pulled over, and the police found like 6 pounds of high-grade weed, lead to a search warrant for their home, and they literally slept on her inflatable mattress. The whole house was a grow opus. She did look like a hippie, but I don't understand. She was not mellow at all. She was a bitch. 2. In 8th grade, one of my friend's parents had cancer. He thought it was a good idea to bring some of their meds to school and hand them out like candy. These were strong meds, and not all of them were pain pills. At least 5 kids overdosed, 2 of them had seizures. No one died thankfully. Edit. I know my grammar isn't the best. I'm no English major, but goddamn people. This is redid, not my English paper. I still get where you're coming from though, so I fixed it. Kind of. First one quite funny lol. Second lucky no one died. Probably the time a girl gave a guy a BJ in the bathroom. The guy filmed it and sent it to his friend. His friend sent all around the school. Eventually the police had to get involved because the one guy was guilty of distribution of child pornography. Had something similar happen at my school, but since it was a private Catholic school, the girl was brought in front of the whole school board for essentially a trial and was expelled. The boys didn't even get detention. Edit. Thank you for the wholesome award, although that is the last word I would use to describe my Catholic school experience. That's stuck up. My scenario was like the opposite. One guy was expelled, the other suspended, and the girl didn't get anything. This was in a public Catholic school, so I don't know. Long story short, the principal got arrested for hiding cameras in the bathroom. This was back in elementary. He was a total ducking creep. A girl died in the pool during an event at the school. The swim teacher was blamed and was prosecuted. The girl who died was at my sister's class. Both were 7 at the time. That happened over 10 years ago, but the parents haven't had another child since. She was their only kid. My religion teacher was relocated after rumors spread that he sexually harassed a female student and hit a male student. I never found out if those rumors were true, but I mean there had to be something, because teachers don't just get relocated in the middle of a school year. He was an ass. I wouldn't put it past him. In Germany it's super hard to get fired as a teacher. I think you'd need a prison sentence to actually get fired. That's why he was only relocated. Dude, that is so similar to my teacher back in grade 6. I'm also German. We got a new sports teacher after summer, which I heard about first. True rumors about how he was moved to our school because he was a pedo. The rumor was straight up he was a pedo, and guess who found out they had a new sports teacher? Well, there was some merit to it. After he randomly left our school, some girls in my class mentioned that he would touch their tights when correcting them, and in general our teacher just didn't touch us ever. But the one thing I can confirm that was not okay was the school rented a dance/gym studio that was just the next building to the school. Since our 2 gyms weren't enough, the teachers had keys that would unlock the changing rooms and then lock the behind us both to keep us from running off since we were off school ground technically, and to make sure our stuff wasn't taken. Well, usually the teacher would walk through a 3-room to unlock our changing rooms and then wait upstairs for us to gather, but for whatever reason this MF thought it was okay to unlock and walk straight into all girls changing room not even a minute after getting there, knowing that we would be undressed. We were undressed and of course screamed. Funny enough, he was gone 2 months later, lol. First week of high school. Pet class. The first section was swim. Wasn't my class, but the class after. This kid was playing a game with his friends in the water. Who could hold their breath the longest? He was going up for air and hit head on the pointy part of the gutter and never made it to the surface. Friends didn't notice. Teacher didn't notice. Eventually football players coming back to the locker rooms noticed. He ended up dying. Teacher was fired, although I wouldn't fully blame him as he was attending and teaching kids who didn't know how to swim or weren't strong swimmers. 1 adult for over 60 kids? Question mark? That's the school's fault. As a lifeguard, I can confirm that even if there is only 1 person in the pool, 2 of us need to be on the chairs. If that person somehow knocks her head and falls unconscious, we need 2 lifeguards to stabilize her, while a 3rd one in the office comes in and brings the dorsal plank, IDK how it's called in English, while the first lifeguard does the proper treatments, while the last one calls an ambulance. Teacher was fired, depending on the rules over where you are. He cold sued the school for those high safety risks. 1 person for 60 kids is beyond dangerous. A girl in my middle school was telling people she had a hit list of people she was going to kill. Got caught with the list and was sent to a hospital for a while. She came back a few years later in high school. Edit. Seems like a lot of people had a similar occurrence in school. This was in Michigan. I also had a hit list in middle school because I was a dumbus. It was a group of about 30 guys that would come to school and play a kind of tag game. If you were tagged during the day, you were assassinated, and the game was over until the next day. My dumbass made a hit list with everyone's name on it. Needless to say, this alerted the principal. Edit. We got a talking to, but we weren't in serious trouble. We used to play a similar game using camera phones when they first came out. The kill was made by taking a photo without the victim being aware of it. Lots of us acting strangely in town, looking over shoulders and ducking behind parked cars. No list. But we were given a bit of a talking to as the college thought there was some intricate form of bullying going on. We had a few. Some standouts. Student hid a pregnancy from her parents. She ended up giving birth at home and killed the baby. Teacher sexually harassed students. Students engaged in sexual acts at the nearby church where all our masses occurred, and we, the student body, were then banned for having our masses at the church. Edit. A few people are mentioning some cheerleader who had been on the news. This was the early 2000s. It did not have news coverage, didn't even go beyond our school, and our school did not have cheerleaders. Edit 2. This was in Canada. Edit 3. I've learned through this thread that this is not an uncommon occurrence, and my heart hurts. A girl gave a guy a BJ behind a building. Her braces got stuck on his dick. He pulls back, dick bleeding, punches her in the mouth. She goes and tells the principal. Parents get called in. He yells she cut my dick while the door was open. Everyone knew then. She goes and tells the principal. What does she even say? I blew a guy behind the building. Accidentally cut him. And he punched me in the face. 3 come to mind. 1. Principal of the HS and director of athletics got caught embezzling money from the school to their bank accounts. They got caught after 50k went missing from the school's bank. 2. Bomb threat. Got searched whenever we went in. Metal detectors. Bomb dogs. The works. 3. Couple kids invited an African American into their Twitter group called Golfinaz and were saying stuff like repeal the 13th to her. She tracked down the school and made a complaint. made local news. Edit. Words. Sophomore year, a girl in my grade passed on a solid yellow up a hill, hit a family in a car, and killed both parents and one of the kids. A week later she's back at school in a brand new pickup truck and never faced any sort of trial or anything. Her parents were extremely large farmers in the small rural town and had influence in the local court systems, I'm sure. Oh, did I mention she excitedly showed off her new truck when she came back? Fuck you, Taylor. There was a kid whose girlfriend brought a knife into school and planned to kill herself in the bathroom. He knew her locker combination, so he took the knife and hid it in his so she wouldn't do it and wouldn't get busted. Someone snitched on him and he got expelled for having a knife on campus. Whole town was pissed. A male gym teacher did land some girls volleyball players. Principal got fired for threatening teachers if they didn't produce enough A's and driving a grade inflation scandal. That and the usual drugs and such. My former high school got on the news for having a history teacher lie for 4 years about being a decorated war hero. Guy claimed to have not one, but 2 Purple Hearts, among other things, and never even served a day in the military. Edit. I can't directly link to articles because of doxing, but I'm sure you can find it on Google. Close bracket. But it gets juicier. The truth came out because his ex-wife exposed him, sending evidence he was making it all up to local news stations and the school. Why'd she do it? The history teacher was having an affair with another teacher in my school. We had a lot of weird teachers at my school, but I think this story shows just how much the administration hardly vetted teachers. Like, holy shit. We also had a guidance counselor get the boot for being a racist, but that's another story that didn't get as much publicity. Back in high school, the entire football team was almost expelled because one girl gave blowjobs to every single one of the players in the locker rooms. Supposedly they were all in a circle and the girl was just going around to each person. The kicker? The girl's brother was on the team, and he let it happen. Edit. Everyone's asking, but it's my understanding that the brother didn't partake in it, but he was effectively forcing her to not stop until she was done with everyone. The team ended up not getting in any major trouble, but the girl was suspended for a good minute. When in middle school, the school forced us to give our phones to the vice principal, and they would stay there locked during the day. They got stolen. Around 120 smartphones. Edit. Changed president to principal. Please don't bully me anymore, Mayo. This locking up can backfire. One year we got together and all agreed to set an alarm on our phones for the same time, at maximum volume. After that they just said the phones had to be turned off, though. Nope, should have set them 2 to 5 minutes apart so they don't go quiet at the same time. The Harlem Shake was a craze. We had a re-teacher who desperately enjoyed being the popular teacher, so he got in on the craze. Invited 40 pupils from my year to his classroom at lunch and filmed his own Harlem Shake video, which in itself would have been against safeguarding rules. Thing is, he also taught sex ed, so everyone got into his cupboard before the start of the video for props. The video was essentially a group of 14-year-olds throwing dildos and condoms around the room while he, of his own accord, grinded on life-size cute out of the pobe. He was suspended under investigation for half a year, but surprisingly kept his job. He was a lot more professional when he returned. A teacher was found having sex with a student on a table in the lunchroom. The student was in 8th grade and her parents knew about it. We had a computer teacher slash football assistant coach who was just blasted all day. Had so many DUIs he had to get rides to work, but was the cousin of the superintendent, so he kept his job. Let's just say that when he crashed a student's car in the parking lot because he convinced them to let him borrow it, that was the beginning of the end of it. It was a small town. The scandal is that the super tried to cover it up by trying to convince the kid to take the heat for it. To no one's surprise, the kid was not convinced. They let him stay on as super for another 2 years. My graphics teacher was married to my maths teacher, and one night he killed her during a domestic dispute. She was apparently having an affair and started taunting him about it in an argument while waving a fire poker at him. He grabbed it off her, hit her over the head and killed her. He was sent to prison for manslaughter, not murder, as the court accepted there was no premeditation. My mum was also a teacher at the school and friends with both of them, so it had a big impact on my family as well as the school. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.